It is 5:30, and I call this meeting officially to order. All right, on to roll call. I see Aubrey, Bjorn, Brandon, Deanna, Greg, Jess, Joey, Josh, Lacey, Terry, Eunice, and Zoe. Have we heard anything about Messina today?
Yes, she did reach out and let us know she wasn't going to be able to attend tonight, but shouldn't be an issue moving forward. So she did reach out in advance and is excused.
All right, thank you, Joey. And on to the agenda approval. And I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, moved by Brandon, I see. Seconded by Bjorn, thank you. And by the way, for those not on the S&A board, please do not vote on this. It will mess up the flow of it. All right, and it's approved. All right, on to the approval of last meeting's minutes. Can I entertain a motion for that?
I move.
A motion by Eunice. Do I see a second?
Second.
Seconded by Zoe, was it? I think I saw it. Yes, okay, perfect. All right, motion approved. All right, on to reports. I do not have a report for you guys tonight, so I'll move on to Brandon. Brandon, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, a little update of just kind of an idea that's been going on within the office of, I guess, the vice president, as well as ACWU. We were thinking about doing a survey project of the students about S&A. The purpose and the objective of the goal is to, one, see how knowledgeable or just kind of the level of awareness students are of S&A. If they're really aware that they pay this fee every quarter of upwards to $200, close to $300, and then also seeing what of the service and activities that they've used the last 4 years or during their current, I guess, like academic career at CWU. And that's going to ask them for each one. It's like, have they used it? Were they satisfied with it? And then probably the most important one is, do they deem it essential or not? So they don't have to necessarily use it all the time or have used it once or twice for them to say, this service and activity is essential, even though I don't use it. So that's pretty important, as well as there'll be some demographics so we understand where these students are majoring in, what level are they, where they're from, geographically, are they a center student, are they a main campus student, are they a purely online student outside of the COVID year? And then we're also working on a way to also incentivize it. I've been working closely with Lacey, as well as my advisor, Jenna, to kind of figure out how that was rolling. But I just want to let you all know that we're working on the survey, and then once it's totally complete and we're kind of have the green light, I just kind of wanted to ask you all if you would like to see it or not. It's definitely a lengthy survey, and that's why we have to incentivize students to take it. But I was just curious if you all would be interested in seeing it once it's probably fully improved and has the green light.
I don't know if you saw Brandon. Terry put a comment in, just what a great idea. But let her know if you would like any help. And I see others nodding and putting thumbs up. I think that'd be great. I mean, it may be something that given the amount of information, you find a way to share, but you can come back and present to the committee just from ASCW standpoint. But I absolutely think it'd be great information, not just for this committee, which is helpful, but also for all of the areas that are funded by S&A too.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, I guess the easiest way for everyone to help is once we're ready to send it out is just telling all your friends of friends, just to make sure we can really encompass like an accurate percentage of the engaged students. I know we're not going to survey every student, and not every student is, I guess, necessarily engaged. So if we can get a high percentage of the students that are, I guess, participate in the certain activities that we provide over a 4-year quadrennium. That's the goal. So once it's ready to go, maybe roll out your social medias if you're not really on them much and spread the word. But with that, I yield my time.
Thank you, Brandon. And now on to our advisors. Any reports for us today?
Just similar to what I shared last week, you all are doing a great job with your questions and being attentive to these requests. I know there's a lot of information, and I appreciate you all asking the questions you are and making good use of that small time period that we have, and making sure that you're keeping diligent notes for when we get to the end of the quarter with our deliberation. So other than that, that's the only kind of update report I have.
Great. I'm going to try and share my screen here for the committee. So we have 6 presentations on the docket for tonight. We actually have 1 new funding request, although it's not necessarily new to the S&A committee. So at the bottom, you'll see that Lion Rock is on the agenda for tonight. And that is something that historically they have come to supplemental to receive funding over the past few years. I'm sure they'll talk about that in their presentation. But I just wanted to show everybody here what we've been kind of looking at for all of the funding each week. And so we have the Early Childhood Learning Center, KCWU, Publicity, Wildcat Sports Network, Menashtash, and Lions Rock. So does anybody have any kind of questions about the financial information being shared, or do you guys just want to dive into the presentations? Okay, I think that says it all. So other than that, I don't have necessarily anything to share.
All right, thank you, Lacey. And I will now go into public comment. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Eunice, I see your hand up.
I'm sorry, I always have a public comment or question. So as a senator, I mean, this question maybe for advisor or for dean. So as a senator, some international students contact with me, and I just learned that there's an ability to waive to some fees from the student success, even though it's a little late. But is there a way to waive or reduce an S&A fee as well? I'm just, because they asked me that, like Brandon said, not many people knows it, but is the most expensive fee. So they asked me this question, and I say, you know what? Let me package you later.
I'll take that one, Eunice. There are a number of fees that do have the ability to be appealed via student success or other areas, and they're all written into the policies. The S&A fee is not really one. There's not a formal one. If there is a student who's especially having a difficult time, they can always reach out either via me or to Greg, Dean Heinzelman, directly. But there's not an official appeal process because it is assessed to all students, not just at the Ellensburg campus, but online and at the centers as well. Yep.
Thank you.
Any more comments today? Joey.
Less a public comment and more something I should have shared for the new presenters, because not everyone is here every week. During your presentations, there is a 10-minute kind of timer. I will put into the chat just a 2-minute warning and a 1-minute warning to give you a little bit of a heads up. Not that you can always see that when you're in the middle of presenting, I know, but as a way to not interrupt too much, I'll put it there. And then if it does go over time, Christian will jump in to let you know we're at the time limit within that. So just as a reminder to the new presenters.
Any more comments before we go into business today? All right, seeing none, we'll go on to new business, and that is our funding requests today. The first one that I see is the Early Childhood Learning Center. That is with Miss Michelle Hill.
Hello.
And with that, hello, and you have the floor.
Okay. I have a presentation for you for the 10 minutes, and then I'm looking forward to answering any questions
At the end of my PowerPoint, I also have pictures to share with you to give you a little visual of what it looks like inside our center for childcare. The Early Childhood Learning Center has been around since 1983, and our program, we have 2 sites on campus, one out in Brooklyn Village, one down in Michelson in room 109. So ECLC offers care, early learning for up to 83 children in 2 separate facilities. In Brooklyn Village, we're at Suite 101 and 102. There's an annex next to us, and that's where we serve the school-age children. And then inside ECLC is ages 2 through 5. Rainbow Center is the infants and toddlers, right across from Hogue there. If you've ever seen us going on our walks with our big buggies. We have our play yard out there inside the brick area. That is where we have ages 4 weeks to 28 months. And then from there, if they're still with us in the program, they transition up to us in Brooklyn Village. How many years has the program received S&A funding? We are 27 years. We serve 75 to 100 student parents in person at our center. We are also able to serve students that are going completely remotely and taking online classes.
Michelle, I don't want to interrupt. I think you had a presentation that was sharing earlier. It's not on the screen right now. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I don't know.
Yeah. So if you can click the share screen, I think it stopped sharing a little bit ago.
Oh,
there you go.
Sharing?
Yep. It's popping up right now. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So a little bit about us. We've received S&A funding for 27 years, serving student parents that are taking classes online or on ground. ECLC is designed to provide quality childcare services through educational curriculum. We use creative curriculum at both sites to serve the needs of young children from 1 month to 12 years in age. I'll also add that the COVID layer has put a little twist in our program that with the school age children, we now have them all day. So whether they are doing virtual all year or they're doing hybrid A or B, we have them instead of just after school from 3:30 to 5:30, we have them all day. So we are accommodating that over there as well. So I'm really thankful that we have that space to do that. Primary goal is to sustain curiosity and eagerness to learn in all young children. We follow the creative curriculum in all classrooms, teaching to the child's area of development and education, cognitive, emotional, social, creative, and physical. We offer family events throughout the year. In November, we offer Harvest Fest. Winter Fest is in January. Our big spring fling is in June. Parents Night Out, Dr. Seuss Night. We have a dinosaur stomp, parents in the classroom. End of summer luau in August. And then our pre-K classroom does field trips in the community throughout the year. To tell you a little bit about our classes at ECLC, we have them in 4 class groups, 15 children per classroom. One room, which is called Red Room, they serve ages 2 and 3. Yellow Room is ages 3 and 4. Blue Room is ages 4 and 5. And then our school program is ages 5 through 12. Our ratio is 1 to 7. And then the school age room, which is on their own next door, we can have more children, 1 to 10. Down at our infant toddler center, 8 infants, 4 weeks to 12 months. And then on the toddler side, we have ages 12 months to 28 months. And our staff to child ratio for infants is 1 to 4. Staff to child ratio for toddlers is 1 to 7. Our wait list, students is 57 children. Our wait list for faculty staff is 64 children. Our overview for the S&A funding, minimum wage is increased for student staff. Our program expenses are spent on maintaining the operation and services, CWU salary and wages, basically the goods and services and materials and supplies for the classroom, repairs and maintenance that is needed, and insurance and licensing renewal. The acronym is DCYF, and that is Department of Children, Youth, and Families. Our org chart, I report to Joseph Pearson. I'm Michelle Hill, the director. We have Assistant Director Brittany Tyler, and then we have a Program Specialist 2, Araceli. We are vacant in 2 positions you will see. And then we have The Early Childhood Program Specialist 3, there are 8. In our Early Childhood Program Specialist 2, we have 2 and 1 cook, 1 director, and 1 assistant director between both sites. And then we have practicum and student staff as well. This is from our website, and this is just a little blurb to put some faces to the names. Okay. Caroline and Emily are Blue Room with ages 4 and 5. Kim and Cheryl are with Red Room, ages 2 and 3. Sarah and Nikki are Yellow Room, and that's ages 3 and 4. Araceli is administrative and also works in the classroom, and Priscilla is our cook for both sites. And then Brandy is our toddler lead teacher for Rainbow, and then we have 2 vacant positions down at Rainbow Center. I threw in a good one from our BFA function that we had with all the teachers that went down there. We had a great time there. Our other revenue sources, so the acronym is CACFP, and that's Child and Adult Care Food Program. So we are reimbursed from federal funds for a certain dollar amount and each month, and that is to specifically provide nutritious meals and snacks at our center. WASAC, that acronym is Washington Student Achievement Council, and this is for eligible student parents, and it's a way to provide financial support to them with the increase in cost and need for finding quality childcare and early learning care. We had a total of 20 student families that were awarded grant monies last academic year, and it's extremely helpful for them. How do our program goals support university goals? We are important to the recruitment and retention of students with families. ECLC provides students with employment and educational benefits, work experience that increase their career marketability immediately upon graduation, and teaching, learning, classroom experiences for students in a variety of fields. Fall 2020, we had 56 student staff working at our sites. We had 7 practicums. This quarter, we have 32 student staff and 4 practicum students. Prevailing wage is $13.69 for student employees. Through student employment at ECLC, Central students are able to gain valuable experience hands-on in the classroom with children ages 1 month to 12 years, enabling them to build their resume for future employment once graduating from Central. Many come full circle and end up working at Central as a staff and having their own children attend ECLC as they did when attending school and working here. And that's wonderful to see. So some of them that have come back to work, I was actually their teacher in their classroom. That's how long ago it was. And we like to say hashtag childcare is central. We also work with Family and Child Life Program, Dr. Dia Gary and Department of Education, AUAP, and we also provide childcare and teachers for Gear Up when they come to campus in October. It was November last year. Providing practicum experiences, childcare and volunteer opportunities to students at Central. We offer a parent-family survey once a year to solicit parent input for program service, direction, and growth. And then the following, I just have, I think do I have a couple minutes left, Joey? Yeah. The following are slides and pictures of our both sites, and then I am ready to answer any questions. So I will, 1 minute left. Here's our Harvest Fest where we cook for the families and invite everybody in all the classrooms. And this is one of our biggest turnouts is the Harvest Fest. It's right before we break for Thanksgiving, the Wednesday before. This is Dr. Diaz-Gary's class, EDEC 411, when they come and do their unit. And they do this in the pre-K class. Winterfest is in January, and they come do activities, all things winter. Valentine's Day. Dr. Seuss. Chinese New Year a while back. And Rodeo City gymnastics field trip. And this is Santa coming to visit, which is AKA Dr. David Douglas that works on campus, and he visits and he gives a child a book, and he comes and he drives his Seahawks truck to us. Parents night out, the Seahawks, the mini 12s, and field trip to local places in the community, such as the post office and Safeway. And then we also have a community garden out here, and there's our cook, Priscilla, and we were growing basil, and they made pesto. 0, am I at 0? Good? Did I run out of time, Joey? Okay. And that is my presentation to you for the 10 minutes.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions tonight? Eunice, you have your hand up.
I have 2 questions for you, Miss Mitchell. First of all, is why there's a difference between fall and winter? There's a 15 students difference, students employer. Did you guys fire them, or I don't know?
COVID.
And my second question, when I came to America, it was shocking news that childcare service is very expensive because in my country it's free. So do you guys charge money to students for this service, or do you guys have some additional funding?
We do. Childcare definitely is not free. And yes, the difference in the enrollment is definitely from COVID, with more people taking online class or not returning to Central. So that's the difference between fall and winter with those numbers. We have student rates, and so we're charged quarterly. So it's however many days are in the quarter, for example, 52 for fall, and it's a daily rate. So they can attend a morning session, they can attend an afternoon session, or they can do a full day. And so I have a DocuSign program, and the days that they attend, we ask them to come 2 days or more, and then that calculates it. So that's how they charge for a contract. And it's charged to their student account. And then if they qualify for that WASAC grant, then that amount is transferred into their account and applied towards their child care bill to help.
So how much you guys charge the students? Like, how much is the fee for the students' families to use this service? Like,
I'll give you a full day rate for the student rate. It's different. Infants and toddlers are more expensive. So infants for a full day rate for a student rate is $30. If they come just the morning block, which is 7:30 to 12:30, that's $20. And then toddlers for a full day rate is $28. And then when you come up to Brooklyn Village, all of our rooms here for a full day rate for a student is $26.
a day, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Brandon, you said you had some questions?
Yeah, I guess just like piggybacking off of that one, I'm just kind of like curious. So students, I guess all students pay the S&A fee to help support ECLC, but then they also have to pay a rate to use it. So I was just kind of wondering, why do we essentially double charge students to use the ECLC?
Same thing for the Circ Rec, or if they're doing a computer charge and everybody gets paid to the Circ fee, even if they don't use the gym to work out. We are in that fee for the Circ, or we're in that fee for the childcare as well, but not a double fee. That's what the S&A fees are, and then they are charged just for the amount that they are here. So their serviced amount. So maybe they come part-time, they come full-time, whatever the time they're used, that's what they're charged for.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And then I guess my other one is, I know we have like a super long wait list, and it seems like most of them, or I guess about half, are like students. How does like the prioritization work? How do we just like prioritize mainly like our student parents? using the service?
It's tricky. The wait list is very tricky and the enrollment is very tricky. It's a Tetris game because you have to make it work if they start in the infants. And most people that stay with us, they go all the way up to blue room and green room, and they stay with us, you know, for a good 4 years or until they go to kindergarten. So students are served first. So I have an online wait list. It's called Waitlist Plus. And so when they enter their information and their student number, it puts them to the top. And so when we go to the wait list, those are the ones that we're offering to first. So that is the way we work that. It does get a little bit tricky. The wait list is long. It's a little bit hard to explain because you can reach out and offer care, and depending on what time or where they're at with their school needs, because some will balance it as in one partner stays home, one comes and one attends class. And then when one partner is done with school, they stay home with the child. So it's different. We've reached out this time. Our wait list is really high. We honestly could have a whole nother center. Infants and toddlers is a huge need anywhere in town. We fulfilled what we can for right now. Some people are still taking online classes, and so they're not needing childcare. So our wait list is long, and those are people that just, they continue to stay on there, and then we reach out every quarter, and maybe their situation will be different. Maybe they'll take on ground classes for spring. Some people are kind of waiting it out with the COVID layer and waiting for a little bit more safe, but I am confident. I'm just happy that our numbers are there and people have come back and they're trusting us with their children with the COVID.
And then last one, I guess, before I go back to my peers, it says you have an 88,000 positive fund balance. I was just kind of wondering, what's your plan to use this remaining money?
We hope, there was a new project that was done last fall, and Brookline Village got new siding that was much needed. And we have that project. Things that have been, we run a really basic program. There's not a whole lot of fluff out here. I can tell you there is maintenance such as new carpets for the whole center up here is definitely needed. It would be great to use those funds to move to a new site once we secure a new venue. So for something that is immediate, our rugs and flooring definitely need to be replaced. A little bit farther down the road, a new venue to open up so we can accommodate and bring more parents, children in, and can really get to that wait list and offer services to them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I believe Lacey had a question as well.
Yes, I'll try to make this quick. So Michelle, you had a slide up there that talked about the staff to ratio of children. And I know it was broken out by age type, but can you give some context to that? Is that a requirement? Is that something that maybe is, you know, kind of standard across the industry?
Yes, standard across the industry. So that's DCYF, Department of Children, Youth and Families. They set the bar of how many infants a worker can have. We run a lot lower. We have always had 1 to 5. So you can have more. So the staff ratio at ECLC, you actually can have 1 to 10. I put 1 to 7 on here. You can actually have 1 to 15 for the school age, but we do not go there. We do keep the lower ratio, which is extremely important, especially with the infants and toddlers.
Great, thank you.
And it looks like there is some discussion in the chat about motioning for a little more time for questions. Eunice, it looks like you were motioning. How many minutes were you?
I mean, if we need it, I can motion it. If we don't need it, I won't do it. If anybody has a questions, I have one more question.
I think there's Bjorn, Terry, and Greg already in line for questions. We have about 2 minutes left in the 10 minutes.
Okay, I can make a motion 5 minutes for the questioning.
Extend it for 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Beyond that.
Yeah.
Just put second in the comments, Christian.
I saw it. Thank you. All right, motion approved. And I believe Bjorn had the first question up.
Yeah, real quick. I still remain the S&A committee's goofiest member, and I'm having trouble reading the sheet. If I'm correct, there's an increase in funds requested from S&A this year as opposed to fiscal year the last one.
Mhm.
Am I right about that?
Correct.
Okay. What accounted for that? Especially given that you've had to lay off a few staff in the pandemic.
I'll go to my slide here. So with minimum wage, took a big hike. So, and we employ a lot of student staff on campus, from, you know, the surf rec to dining to ECLC. We're the third largest. And then salary and wages also, and the cost of living increases. Insurance and licensing, but wages are the most expensive, especially with the minimum wage increasing. No layoffs though for student staff, if that's what you're asking. Am I hearing that question correctly when you said layoffs?
I just noticed that some of the positions were vacant on the chart of employees.
Oh, the two that are recent for the vacancy, we had one on FMLA and she chose to stay home with her new infant. And the other one, just due to family with the COVID, she has 3 that she's remotely teaching in the school district. And so she needs to stay home and support them. So those are November and January recent. So no layoffs, they're just due to COVID, she needs to be home with her 3 kids to teach. And then the other one is staying home with her first baby.
Understandable.
Can I jump in for a clarifying point? And this is going off Bjorn's question, but for you, Michelle, the numbers that I'm looking at, and maybe I'm not looking at the most updated, is it looks like the request for the next funding cycle is 595, 164 annually, which is the same amount that was allocated this year. So I'm not seeing an increase. I don't know if I'm looking at the wrong thing or if there's something else, or if Lacey can clarify either. I know it's an increase from the previous funding cycle, but not from this year's funding.
Michelle, if you want to stop sharing, I can share the financials.
They do it.
So just to pull up ECLC. So when we're looking at the 6-year plan for the financials, there is an increase based off of the last, I would say, so fiscal 17, there was an increase between that year and our current funding cycle. And then there was an increase in fiscal 20, but as far as the fiscal 22 request, it has remained flat. So it's
Okay,
this line right here.
I was reading the wrong thing, I think.
And down here kind of shows it a little bit easier on your eyes.
And you're totally good, Bjorn. Sometimes there's a lot of info to process here. That's why I want to make sure I wasn't reading it wrong.
I also had a quick second question, if that's all right. In terms of COVID, it's been rough. What has the ECLC been doing to protect the kids and the staff as we're reopening?
Great question. We have a very lengthy reopen plan that I worked closely with other people in the community and Mark Larson as well. And we are close to parents. So the only people allowed in the center are the staff and the children. So we meet them out front. We came back September 4th. And so we're going to continue to do that winter. We're going to continue to do that spring. We use an app called Brightwheel. And so when they come up, there's a QR code outside and they take their phone and do the QR code and it has a health questionnaire. and they need to pass that health questionnaire, and we see it on our iPad in here, and then we go out and meet them and take them in. Temperatures are checked, hands are washed when they come in, and then the student staff take them down to the classroom. So we do that at both sites. It's hard for parents. They don't get to see inside the classroom. They don't get to see the activities or the artwork, their children playing outside, seeing their other friends, just that visual that you love to see when you pick up your children, seeing them engaged in learning. They don't get to talk to the teacher like they can. So we're really relying on Zoom, phone calls, or having the lead teacher go to the front door and talk to them that way. And then parents are also required to fill out the questionnaire, the survey. It's on my CWU before they come here, and then they're masked up as well. And so they need to fill that out and take their own temperatures. And then of course, student staff and lead staff take their temperatures and record them daily also, and do the health questionnaire on my CWU. So those are a lot of things that have changed. It's a lot smoother for winter quarter. For fall, I mean, we had no playbook to go off of. You know, we've never worn masks. We've never met families at the door. It's just always them coming in. So it's definitely different. And also to let you know, children in the school age, that is who is required to wear masks. The other children are not. So that is for licensing DOH. And so that's what we follow. So a lot of safety guards, a lot of precautionary, but it's working well. So, and we're open and we've stayed open.
Gotcha. Thank you. I hope things continue to be healthy for you.
Me too. Thank you.
Terry, I believe you had a question next.
Thank you very much. When I was looking at the financials, it appears to me that about half of your revenue, maybe between half, 50% and 60% on any given year is coming from S&A funding. The other half, I assume, is coming from the fees.
Correct, and the contracts, correct.
Okay, so the students are paying about, the S&A fund is paying about 50% of the fees. Do you know what percentage of the people that are the parents that are being served, what percentage of them are students and what percentage of them are staff?
I haven't done the percentage for winter. Each room is different. I can tell you school age is always higher for faculty staff, just because when student parents are coming and taking classes, it's when their children are very young, and usually they finish, 3 to 5 years, and so they leave around yellow room time. So
is it like 50-50? I mean, if the first slide you had parent, so it's about 50% each.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Okay. And have you applied for other grants or funding sources?
When the grant office passes them on to us, we do. There is one that we're working on. It's called the C Campus, CCAMPIS, and we are working on the proposal for that. And then the other one that we secured as of fall last week is a COVID-19 grant through DCYF, and it's for centers that had to close for COVID, which we did March 17th. And that they reopened, and they want to keep childcare open, keep us going. So we received a grant for ECLC and Rainbow. They configured it with the amount of children enrolled times $200. And so that just came through the proposals en route for the signatures. As we speak, I put it in interoffice mail today. So, and my direct report signed off on it Monday. So that's brand new. So that just came about, and that'll be super helpful for us, and helpful for all the childcare centers in town too that are just barely making it. Yep.
So we are over time with our extended questions. I don't know if you saw, I did let the group know that any additional questions, I'll go ahead and type up and can send to you, Michelle. that way we can share them with the committee next week. And so Eunice, I have Jess's question. Eunice said Terry asked his question, so thank you, Terry. And Greg, if you want to send me whatever question was you had on the docket, I can get that to Michelle, and so she has time to get us the answer next week.
Sure.
Do you want us to just email you or anything, Joey?
Yeah, you can just email them to me.
And with that, thank you, Michelle, for your presentation today.
Thank you for your time and thank you for listening, and awesome questions too.
Of course. All right, and next up today we have Manastash, and that I believe is Xavier Cavazos is speaking today.
Hey everyone, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time. Where's Greg? Got to give a shout out to Greg. There you are, brother. Gonna rock this for the presentation. Joey, did you get the presentation that I emailed you earlier today?
I did not. Let me look and see if it went somewhere else, but I do not have it there.
Well, let me begin then by showing the journal Menashdash to the committee that's here. It's a bound, nicely editioned journal that features art and writing from students of Central, interviews, and fiction. It's this one right here. You are looking at a historic document. It's a 30th annual edition of Menashdash. Student writing produced 100% by students, for students. You know, having your support all this time, for decades of support, has meant a lot, you know, for us. Both Barry Shelton, the other faculty advisor who's on here as well for this class, and I thought hard, you know, during the pandemic in ways that we could cut costs and figure out ways that we could help eliminate student fees, or not fees, but money that they need. So the number one thing we're doing for this upcoming edition of Menashdash is students that are in the editing and design classes aren't getting textbooks. So we're gonna have all the content open to them. And I believe Barry is also working on getting a free Adobe subscription for students. And those may seem little and trivial, but they really do add up a lot right now, directly from the students that we hear about. So that's one of the things that we're doing, you know. The number one thing about Menashdash, if you're not familiar with the journal, is that it empowers students' voices. For over 30 years, we've been amplifying student diversity, culture, gender, religion. And in so many ways, students come to knowing through the content of Menashdash. They come to finding other voices to identify with, victims of abuse or victims of trauma, through our stories, through our art. This issue here was the last issue, and it's dedicated to environmental justice. And if I could just for a second read you the intro from the senior editors of the class. It's, Dear Menashdash readers, the 30th anniversary edition of Menashdash is in recognition of the global environmental emergency and how that alters life on CWU's campuses. This collection highlights the interdependent relationship between environmental and individual wellness. With this collection, we aim to convey that these issues, that they may seem removed from students' everyday lives here, but have a profound influence. The value of the education is coming to understand that small acts make impacts. Art consists of poems, pictures, and planting trees. Through human expression, we create a path of new growth. This edition serves as a testament to the extreme consequences of remaining complacent. What an empowering moment to have our own students have voices concerned of social justice, environmental justice, ways that we can impact going forward as stewards, as graduates of Central Washington University. Secondly, the Menashtas serves the entire student body in that it's free and available to everyone. And we have an annual reading, of course, that we didn't have that with COVID, but it's a community, it's an artifact that is a lasting presence and community for students to center on and over the time as well. So if we could just go through this, it's just a quick little, you can just run through it, Joey. Just that, it's 100% student created, 100% student can submit work for inclusion. So it's open to the entire student body. The entire student body benefits from this. Often, I'm always amazed at how many submissions we get from across different disciplines. We'll have students from business writing poems that get in. We'll have students from history submitting photos that get in. It's a real inclusive journal. So go ahead into the next one. It's our 31st year. I just want to say that, you know, we have a long-standing tradition on campus and celebrating us. You know, we're named for Menashtas Ridge. From that viewpoint, you can see where you want to go in the future. It's one thing we talk to our students often about. Have that vision about where your future where you want to look towards. Is that what you're looking towards, the future you want to go towards, right? Thank you. Go ahead, Joey. Specifics, Menashtas celebrates diversity and encourages submissions that amplify identity and culture. Just again, echoing what I was saying. It's student artistic work published in Menashtas often deals with issues of injustice, gender identity, and ways of coming to knowing. We will survive. It's free and available to all CW students and to all CW centers and online. We will innovate. Look to the future. Because of COVID and the current economic state, Menashtas is looking at ways of innovation in this time of uncertainty. And again, these are all kind of things I was just talking to you about. The elimination of submittable subscription, elimination of Adobe subscription service, and elimination of textbook purchases by students during pandemic. This year's budget that we're looking for is 5,186. It's not an increase. It's been the standard push along for our printing, even though printing costs have gone up. As every cost item, as you all well know, has more than gone up during the pandemic. We can very well estimate our printing costs will go up as well, but we're going to figure out a way to make it work with this budget. And just thank you, and we're grateful for S&A's decades of continued support. Any questions? Or Barry, would you like to add anything?
I don't think I have anything to add really, Javier. I just wanted to say that we're going to have the additional cost of having to mail out the physical volumes this year as we did last year. So we'll, like you said, we'll make it work, but yeah.
Brandon, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, I guess just like my first question is just like, what exactly are those costs that this $5,000 will go to every year? Is it like primarily just printing? Is there other?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of those costs, Brandon, are budget printing costs. You know, we always scour for the best prices. We do the standard printing. We use Abbott's printing, which is what CWU public relations, HR uses. So we go there, they're in Yakima. The majority of that budget is fed into the cost print of it, the actual physical. And so what that, just so you know what that does, like say a difference of $500 would be maybe less, 50 less copies. And so we typically print 300 copies. Those go very fast. You know, we distribute them out to different centers and to different locations around campus, the library, the the art department as well, since we have several art students submitting as well. So yeah, it's mainly for that. We have had regularly an annual launch party. So usually $50 to $100 goes to that for a little tray of the refreshments that come and a podium, something like that. We've figured out ways in the last few years to not do that, just because a lot of the stuff comes into, you know, getting chairs, and it just seems like all those things add up a lot more. We typically keep that at about $100. In that budget, typically there is 2 allotments at $250 for the winter quarter class and $250 also for the design class, to bring in a guest professional editor to speak to the students. And then they do a larger sort of brown bag presentation to anyone in the community that wants to. Say you're in communications or you're in journalism, then you have access to those same presentations as well. So that's something that's in there. And other than that, it's pretty much just the printing of the journal.
I'd like to just add to what Javier said there. In the production of the physical volume of the journal is actually really important because when we produce that physical volume, that means that all the students that have worked on it have that sort of artifact there that they can point to and say, look, I actually worked on editing a real journal that was produced by a university. So it adds value to students' CVs and resumes that are involved in the publication and editing class as well.
Bjorn, did you have a question? I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of check in, see what kind of metrics you guys have at Monastash for determining how many students you've reached, like the impact of the journal. I certainly empathize as a fellow humanities guy with the power of art and literature. I just want to get a sense of like how spread out the influence of Monastash as a journal is.
Well, it's campus wide, you know. I mean, I think one of our favorite moments as faculty is when we have alumni day or alumni presentations. And those are always really, I mean, over the course of the last 6 years, I would have to say almost annually, we in English will get a student that comes back and talks about that, or we'll get a student in communications that's presenting communications that talks about a publication there. You know, it's funny how the journal as an artifact connects students over really decades, you know, and acts as almost a cohort, so that the students that are published in here, maybe I don't know, but 50 or 60 students in the back of this right here are bonded in this cohort of this publication in some way. You know, that said, other than we don't have a real data to give you in that way, other than the issues go very fast and are sought out, and we have to actually, you know, one of the saddest things is not being able to give out freely as many issues per contributor, or to just someone that's a fan of it. I know one year we had a social justice cover that was really graphic and popular, and students really wanted it, and it made it really, you know, yeah, and so it just went, you know. But other than that, I don't have a concrete, you know, number answer to give you.
Eunice, do you have your hand up?
Yes. To be honest, this is my second year. I didn't even know about this, but when after you did the research, I did some online searching. I have 2 questions. I mean, it's not related to S&A, but is there access to these magazines online?
So yeah, we put it up on the department. If you go to the department website, you know, so it's not an online journal. I mean, Barry might be able to answer this a little bit better for me in terms of what's happening going into, you know, the future. But we host a PDF of it on our English department website, you know. I don't know more than that in terms of, is it, accessible that way. But yes, totally, anyone comes through the English department can click.
And
Very-
my second question is going to be kind of weird question. I know it's English department. Are you guys accepting another language each year? Because we have international students at Central Washington University.
Absolutely. We encourage that. We've published multiple languages already in several past issues of Menashdashes. And like I say, it's really a place where we unify our student inclusivity. We really celebrate different cultures and stories.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yep, Eunice.
Brandon, do you have a question?
Yeah, Xavier, totally respecting. Thank you for presenting. Knowing that it's, I guess, Menashtash, it kind of lives under the English department, and I know it's student run. I'm just kind of wondering, what does the role that yourself, Barry, and all the other kind of faculty members play?
Sure, we're the professional advisors for the course, right? So, like for myself, just make sure that the course itself is designed in a way that the students, first off, know how to identify the criteria of quality writing. What does that look like? Sure, we all like stories about cats, but is it a good story crafted in the criteria, image, tension, language, things that we check off as criteria of stories. So we guide that, in the design course. It's more guiding the design, right? But this is what I don't do. Like, I could tell war stories, but I don't think we want to do that. But what I try to do is teach the best principles of the professional business industry, like as today, the standards of today. And then the class really, it's 100%, and I know it's just as important to Barry about this, is that it's 100% student-led, right? And so there are several times when we're in editorial situations where I'm not agreeing with what I'm hearing, and where the group itself sort of creates critical mass about liking a piece of literature or a piece of art or something that doesn't really have any of the criteria of quality of craft. And I can't just interject myself as the authority. And it's actually not part of my pedagogical approach. I never try to be the authority in the room. So it's through that way. It's through also seeing what the student can do professionally, and then where they begin to fail. It's another part of my pedagogy, is that failure is the only option, because it's really the only way you learn is through failure. So I assist up until that point, and then we'll get into to not let the student fail, but to get the student to be able to do the next sort of level of craft assessment needed to make sure the journal comes out.
Okay, and so there is really, I guess, no shape and form how the English department may influence the students, say, I guess maybe like extra credit if you were to submit to Menashtash or anything like that. This is purely student driven. Students are motivated by themselves to work and submit work to this journal.
Yeah, so like, this is what I'm saying, like, this is the craziest thing. So I'm sure you all have known the phenomenon of slam poetry, right? So slam is barely ever in English, where even though you think it was, like, most of our slammers come from, other curriculums, other departments, history, mathematics, science, all this stuff, right? So we have, and not only that, like, think about all of you in high school, the students that are now, like, how you wrote and you got into stories. So I would just say, there's a high percentage of all the Central Washington University students that like story, that like writing, that like creativity, that like journaling, that like doing doodling, that like doing art, that like doing sculptures, that like connecting in a meaningful human way through creativity, right? It's almost a release of whatever else they're doing. So yeah, we get those submissions. It's almost like, hey, I'm stopped all the time on campus. When are we gonna, when submissions, when's submissions gonna be? How, I want to get this. And it's rarely, this is just really true. It's rarely by an English student. because it's often so much more sought after by other students that are doing other things, you know. And that's what I love about it, you know. I mean, you know, preaching to the choir is one thing, but it's always a lot more fun when the audience is diverse and from the entire community.
If you look at the author biographies in the front cover of Monastash, you'll see that we represent a wide variety of students from lots of different departments, disciplines, and backgrounds. People are presenting from all over the university. Absolutely.
And with that, I believe our time for questions is up. Unless anyone wants to motion for more time, or we can send those questions to Joseph and then he'll go to Javier for that.
It's up to you, Greg. You can make a motion, so it's your question. But I really want to hear the question, so I want to make motion for extra 1 minute for the question. Because I always students asking, I really want to know some faculty ask question because they have more professional vision on this kind of things. So I am making motion extra 1.5 minute for the questions.
Seconded.
And while you are all voting on that, I did put it in there, and I didn't say anything, but I did put the link to the online on the English department's website to Monash Journal, and you can open the journal from there for anyone who wants to take a look at that later.
We'll have PDFs of the most recent year's edition up really soon. And we've got something really cool happening this year as well. We actually asked all the authors to read their own work. So we're going to produce another version of the PDF that has embedded audio of all the text of the authors, either the authors themselves reading or our editors reading their work. So got something new coming this year.
All right, thank you for that information. And so the motion was approved, and I believe it was Greg that had the question.
Yeah, you know, and my question for, you know, the early childhood development was much better than this one. Sorry, Eunice. But Javier, I just wanted clarification because I think you said you printed 350,000.
300.
You printed 300 publications.
300.
Okay.
It changes, you know, but Greg, it changes. Okay, I'll be right there. It changes, Greg. I know one year we've had 500. I think our lowest printing year one year was maybe 200 because we were trying to really do something special for art students and make the quality of their art look really great in the journal, and it cost a lot.
And I was just thinking because I mean I know that a lot of the printers, you know, when I get things printed, that if you go to the next level, it's sometimes just a very small amount of money to get twice as many, and so maybe you're just not asking for enough money.
No, and you're absolutely right. And here's the thing. Here's the tricky part. Is that there's a really constrained time frame from the spring design course, from when it starts at the end of spring break to when the actual journal has to be delivered to be printed in order for it to be back to be premiered at Source for the Source presentation of it, right? So the turnaround, because we could do that a little bit more and go out either a further distance, but it's the timing of getting it back quickly from, that's why we go with Yakima, because it happens so quickly and there's just no delay of printing days.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. I just, you know, trying to think of, it doesn't seem like enough, but
it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. But if we it almost eats all the money at that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield the rest of my time to Eunice.
I am so sorry.
Thank you, everyone. Just appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate your time, both you and Barry. All right. on to our next presentation. I believe that is the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Center. And from there, we have Maya Zeller. You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maya Zeller. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, is that coming up?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so we're presenting for the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Series. Thank you so much for having us. Joey noted that in the past, we have asked for, or Lacey noted that in the past, we have asked for supplemental funding. And I've only run the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Series for the last 2 years. And we did request supplemental funding the last 2 years. And then this year had the opportunity to jump in and ask for base funding. So we're going to talk about why. So I'm going to introduce us first. There are 3 of us here to talk. I brought 2 of my colleagues. So I'm Maya. I'm an associate professor of English and the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Series coordinator. And I do this as service hours. And so the budget does not pay for my service to the magazine that comes out of my faculty service. And then we have 2 other folks here also presenting, and I'm going to let them say hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taina Bambrick, and I'm a lecturer for the English, Gen Ed, and Accessibility Studies program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby. I'm a senior here at Central, and I'm the Lion Rock intern.
So we want to give you an overview of our program. So what is the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Series and what are its benefits? And so we have a list of things that we do. We bring a diverse range of acclaimed writers to Central's campus for readings, craft talks, and other student-centered events, live and virtually, which we do both in the pandemic and out of the pandemic. We have a virtual access to our events. And we serve both campus and online students. And this is something we're really proud of because our online students don't always have access to all the programs on campus, but the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Series does serve that population. And we connect our campus community and online cohorts via accessible platforms. So as Tina mentioned, she works with accessibility studies, and we're working toward having even more accessible platforms for Lion Rock. We create a forum for student to community engagement. We provide a model for professional engagement beyond classroom learning. We promote and connect our literary mission with larger social, environmental, and racial justice endeavors. We highlight Central on the Pacific Northwest literary map and connect our students with authors from the Pacific Northwest, the larger region, the nation, and wider. And we provide a professional showcase for the writing of faculty and alums and continue to connect our student population on campus with people who've graduated and moved on from Central. So there's that constant mentorship loop happening. And then we also promote interdisciplinarity and collaboration across departments and programs. This is just a sampling of some of the authors that we've hosted on campus. I'm not going to read through the whole list, but I just wanted to put it up here for you. So you can see we've hosted a pretty wide range. And last year, we received supplemental funding from S&A to help bring to campus a few authors. And just before we closed campus for the pandemic, we brought to campus Alyssa Washuta, who's from the Cowlitz tribe and who writes a lot about identity politics, but also the essay form, and merges those things with social and environmental justice, because you really can't separate them. And this was her giving a talk to a packed Brooks Library room for a noon craft talk. She gave a noon craft talk, and then she also gave an evening reading. And both of those events were full, even though we were just a few weeks before closing campus. We were on the fence about whether or not to have those events, but all of campus was still open and hosting things. For our next event in the spring, for which we planned to partner with Art and Design, we actually had set it up with the folks over in Art and Design, actually Greg and not Greg directly, but all of his colleagues. And we're going to host a live workshop that brought in Mita Mahato, who's a cut paper and visual comic artist. And she was going to give a workshop that was open that people would register for. But because the pandemic hit in the spring, she ended up giving her talk online. And it was actually kind of cool because she projected slides of her poems in the making, in the process, and led us through them and talked about them, and then followed up her talk with a craft talk or with a follow-up Q&A later. So we took questions after her craft talk, curated them, sent them to her, and then she made another video for us after the fact, which we then shared out to parties. And all of the events from Lion Rock are available via Panopto. So if anybody ever wants to access them later on, they can. And so if anyone wants to access last spring's talks, for example, because you're interested in seeing them, you could write to me and ask, and I can send them to you. Now I'm going to pass it off to Tainum, who's going to talk about a few of our collaborators.
Thank you, Maya. So one of the cool things about Lion Rock is that we do collaborate across departments and colleges. So we work with the Brooks Library, the Wildcat Shop, Museum of Culture and Environment, the History Department, Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies, Art and Design, MECHA, College of Arts and Humanities, Ellensburg City and County Libraries. And so these are our programs for 2020 and 21. For the winter, the event that we have coming up next is Jordan Imani Keith and Duji Tahat. We're really excited about this event, and you can see the flyer for it here. That's happening on Tuesday, January 26th. We hope you'll join us for that. The other event we're doing this winter is a student-centered reading. So it's completely run by, planned by, and the participants will all be students, which is really exciting. And that is titled Healing Spaces, Poems and Prose on Social, Racial, and Environmental Justice. And Gabby has been really instrumental in planning that event. And in the spring, we are going to be bringing Deshaun Charles Winslow, who's a fiction writer, Victoria Chang, who writes young adult fiction and poetry, and Paisley Rechtel, who writes creative nonfiction, poetry, and scholarship. So our requested annual amount from S&A is $3,000, and our budget is on the next slide.
Okay, so can you hear me again? Yeah. All right. So this is our full budget, as Tina mentioned, and it explains how funds will be utilized, giving you our budget for next year. So this year, I think I saw at the very beginning, Lacey actually projected this year's budget for Lion Rock, which was about $5,000. And this year we did not receive any funding from any campus sources. And what we did was we used rollover funds in the spring when we saw that COVID was happening. We quickly scrambled and tried to save funds, and we're able to save some of our donors' money from last year and roll it over for this year. And then we're operating on a smaller budget this year, which will be pretty much zeroed out. And I do have rollover funds in our revenue category, but that's just being hopeful that, that those aren't taken up elsewhere, and that the other funds we expect to come in will come in. So this is our full budget, and we're showing it to you because we like transparency. So our goal is to spend, to bring in 5 authors next year, and we'd like to spend closer to $2,000 each next year because we want to bring in higher profile authors to campus, hopefully, and if not to campus, then virtually, and have them giving a couple events. Our authors in the spring, for example, this year are each doing 2 events. So we'll have events, readings one night and craft talks the next day. So people will have a couple different chances to catch those authors. So our author fees would be $10,000 for 5 authors. PR packages, they're about $120 each. This year, we're doing smaller packages. I'm just being completely transparent. They're like $90 each because we don't do any physical distribution this year. MEC taping is $25 an hour. So that'd be 5 hours at $25 each. Receptions and dinners for the authors, we like to treat them, well when they're on campus, and then hotel and lodging for the authors. And so those are our expenses. And all of these events, all of these expenses serve also the students. So our revenue, in our revenue category, we have our annual donor. We have one annual donor that gives to Lion Rock of $1,000. In the past, we have had CAW give us money. There was obviously a budget freeze this year, so we didn't have those funds. So we don't have that to count on, and we don't have it to count on for next year. We do hope that we'll roll over $1,000. And I applied for a Lynn Thayer grant and was very, very grateful to receive that for next year. So I do have $5,000 from Lynn Thayer for next year, because we really put together a pretty diverse and inclusive slate of writers trying to represent our student population. And so we were able to get that money. And then we have projected partnerships on here because we do partner with so many campus organizations. The library, for example, gives us a space for free. And so that would be money in, money out. We partner with at times we partner with the Office of Diversity and Inclusivity. So we have all these other partners, and so that's our projected partnerships. We are only asking, our total expenses are $12,000 for this budget. We're asking from S&A for $3,000 annually, just to supplement, it would be base funding, but supplementing a budget that brings in from other sources. And we do work pretty hard to get those other sources. So I'm now going to invite Gabby to come talk because she's going to address the student impact and student perspectives as our student intern.
Thanks, Maya. So yeah, as you can see on the slide, I have a few quotes from students who have attended Lion Rock events consistently, but I would also love to speak to my own personal experience with Lion Rock. So Lion Rock is actually a huge part of what attracted me to the English program at Central when I was applying, and it did not disappoint after I arrived. I've been attending Lion Rock events since I was a freshman, before I was even the intern. And what I love about Lion Rock is that it not only provides the opportunity to see authors reading their work, but also to actually interact with them and ask them questions, which is a really valuable experience. And these events, I believe, are not only valuable for English majors and people interested in writing, but really for anyone. Like Tatum said, a lot of our upcoming events are centered on environmental, social, and racial justice. So there are a lot of important conversations happening at these events, and they also connect not only students across campus, but also the Ellensburg community. So it's just a really awesome chance for so many different people who might not have met otherwise to join in this space and just listen to some really amazing writers and have some important conversations.
Thanks, Gabby. Okay, so you can see our website for more. I did put it into the chat. So if you'd like to click and see what our series is presenting this year, and then what we did last year and the previous years, you can see that through the website. And that is actually all we have. And we are happy to take questions, and we really appreciate S&A's past funding. And as I said, we aren't looking to fund the entire experience with S&A money, but we do think it serves the population of our students at Central, and we'd like to look for base funding. So thanks.
Brandon, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have one question, kind of similar to Monash. I know that this kind of finds home under the English department, and our, faculty plays a role in it. I was just kind of wondering, do they kind of like impact how students kind of engage with these activities? Similar to the question I asked before, do students come purely because they're engaged and they're interested in the service that Lion Rock provides, or is it also kind of like incentivized in any way, kind of like extra credit? And like, so I'm just kind of wondering, are students going pure interest, or are they kind of like pushed by maybe faculty or the academic realm of CWU?
I mean, I hope that our faculty are encouraging their students to attend Lion Rock events, but it isn't required for English classes. And we do actually have student populations coming from other departments. I mean, I think Gabby can probably speak to this, but at each event we collaborate, like I said, across, with the Brooks Library, and we always do a total count of how many people are in the audience. And at some of our events last year, we had, I think we set out something like, Gabby, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we set out like 200 and something chairs, which is pretty good for a literary event. And they were full. And then we had more chairs coming in. And, we have something like 90 on-campus English majors, and they are not all attending that event. Those are students from other departments, other majors, other disciplines. And looking around the crowd, I can tell you, I see a lot of students I don't recognize. Some of those students ask great questions. We have students come in from clubs saying, I heard about this in here, I heard about this here. Or you can see, actually, if you're on campus at all, you can see the, projection of our events coming up. They're advertised in the CIRC, they're advertised all across campus. And so we hope we're reaching more and more people. And I think Gabby's really done a lot of outreach. She's been trying to pull in other departments. I think that if you were in any of our partner departments, or actually anywhere across campus, you probably got emails from Gabby this week advertising our student run event that's entirely student run. Gabby's doing all the work. The students are reading their own work. So we're doing a lot of things to outreach and kind of create community with students. We do those counts at the events. That would be my like quantitative answer to you, Brandon. We have total head counts at events. And I could get you those counts. The Brooks Library keeps them. And I can't tell you the exact percentage breakdown, but you know, in terms of like what I'm observing, there's no way that it's all English majors in the audience.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
Eunice, you had a question as well.
I don't get me wrong, and I know $3,000 maybe is not a lot, but still it's paid by students. My real question before, Gaby is a student, right?
Yeah.
So have you guys ever tried to create the clubs then access the club funding? Because like, for example, we bring speakers from Egypt as a MSA. We asked the funding from the club council and they provided us. I mean, I believe that SNA, I mean, if you guys create the clubs, it's gonna be more engaged and it's gonna be more students activities than SNA. And yeah, also like library, you guys say library is helping you guys, and I know that library is helping some funding on some events too. I know this is too much question for $3,000,
Yeah, no,
but still I want to know more.
This is a great question. So we do have student clubs in the English department. We actually have a club called the Inklings. And the Inklings are a student writing club, and they sometimes collaborate and help promote our events. But the Inklings would not have, say, like the student infrastructure to access all of the things that we have, that we access as faculty. So we're really serving the series as faculty, and having a club run the series would be a great idea, but I think it would be a very different looking series. And so we do have the Inklings as a student club. We also have Monastash, as Hav just presented for Monastash, and we partner with them. But the infrastructure of Lion Rock as a visiting writer series, if you look at other universities, you don't see a lot of student-run visiting writer series that run at this level. And so even though I would applaud that, I would say, yes, please start a student club, please have a student-run reading series. We would partner with them, and I would absolutely advocate for that. I would say that's not generally the way that visiting writer series are run. And it's not, it's the infrastructure. I don't know what the infrastructure would look like for that, but I do appreciate the question.
Because I think as a SNA, we will have a supplemental regulars for next year. We just freeze for this year. This was the plan, but I don't know what's gonna be happen next year. I believe that I think this is kind of more than supplemental than SNA funding. I mean, yeah, but the thing, sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think that's an SNA discussion, and I mean, obviously, you.
Yes, that's why I was like, I just remembered and I stopped. Okay.
Thank you for your question.
Any more questions?
I think Bjorn has had his hand up, Christian.
All right, Bjorn.
Yeah, it was mentioned a couple of times that this really puts CWU on the map, but also Ellensburg as a result of that. How has community outreach and community collaboration been in the past?
Yeah, actually, it's been great. Last year, we were collaborating, for an example, with the Ellensburg Public Libraries, and they were partnering with us to use the One Book, One County funds to help bring in an author in spring. Because of the pandemic, that part got shut down because they weren't able to host people live through the libraries. We had planned on having high school partners come to the libraries. We had a whole thing set up with the public schools, the partners of the libraries for this author. And it didn't work out because of the pandemic, but that has gone well in the past. And we've collaborated with them this year in terms of we're inviting them to attend all the events. And because they're virtual and online and open and free, anyone can attend. So the collaboration right now looks good. I don't know what their funding outlook looks like. I did ask if they wanted to collaborate this year, and they said their funding was all pretty frozen. So, and we're using funding this year from last year. So otherwise we wouldn't have a series, but we were really careful. And we were lucky that we were able to save money and roll it over for this year. And we're operating entirely on rollover this year for the series. So I don't know what it'll look like for next year. And I do plan to reach out to them as soon as they know more about their budgets. But we like having the partnerships with the community, with Kittitas County, with the Ellensburg Public Libraries, and we'd like to see even more high school students coming in. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that covers it very nicely.
Any more
Thank you.
questions? Lacey, did you have your hand up?
I do. I have a quick question. So what would be the impact to your program if there was a 15% reduction on your request?
I think that the impact would be that we would bring in just fewer larger name authors. So we could probably bring in, say if our, just like talking, if we were able to get like $2,500 as a base funding annually per year, we could still bring in larger name authors, but then we would probably just have smaller local people that we, that would do favors for us for less money. So less profile authors. But I think our series would still absolutely operate, to be honest with you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Any more questions? Seeing none, thank you to everyone from the Lion Rock Visiting Writers Center for coming out. Very nice to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Up next, we have the Publicity Center. And with that, we have Lola Gallagher. You have the floor.
Yay! Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for spending many, many hours with all of us. I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to share my screen and hope that this PowerPoint works for you all. Let's see here. Okay, so a couple things I wanted to start with. The first is the Publicity Center was established in 1996, which is 25 years. This summer, we'll be celebrating 25 years. But it's important to note that actually this type of activity has a long history, not just at Central, but at universities and colleges across the country. Traditionally, there are students who are promoting student activities and events. What happened with our center is it was created as a result of a huge jump in demand or requests for support in that area because at the time, we were looking at starting to construct a new building. And so there were many departments that came together and said that they would support a position, a professional position, to actually supervise the students and someone who had experience in that arena. And that happened to be me at the time. I was just hired as a temp, but I graduated from Central Washington University with a degree in graphic design. And I was really familiar because I worked with student activities when I was a student and as a graphic designer. So just wanted to point out that even though we've been around a long time, the tradition is even longer than that. Our mission is really to just offer a robust array of creative services for campus departments, student groups, organizations to promote their events. And Not secondarily to that, I would say along with that is to provide those student employees that we have in the center, provide them with some real valuable real world experience. They are mentored by professionals in their respective fields, so they're getting real valuable mentoring and portfolio development. Our purpose is to engage and inform students, staff, faculty, the general public, really create some spaces and ways for students to get connected and feel belonging. So I don't need to read the whole thing, you can read it. I would point out though that a major focus for us has been to be as inclusive as possible. So we do work with other departments and areas. We have staff go through training to make sure that what we are presenting out to the world is mindful of our campus and the world around us. So currently we have 4 professional staff in the Publicity Center, myself and 3 others. We employ anywhere from 16 to 20 student staff. It varies from year to year depending on what the environment is at the time. And we also have traditionally, I mean, for more than 20 years, we've offered a couple of summer internships for design students, which is a requirement of their major. And unfortunately, we weren't able to do that last year because of COVID and many reductions. But hopefully moving forward, we'll be able to continue doing that. We also have had, we have employed temps to help us with graphic design or video as we've gotten like just really hit hard with requests for additional services. So that's, you know, sort of as needed basis, and if there is funding in our revenue line to support that. I wanted to show this picture because this is actually from last fall. You can see our friendly group here. We were in the circ, everyone was really happy. We had a pretty full crew there. At the time we were without a professional graphic designer because we were in transition. And then this was spring and everybody was so sweet and happy and doing the best that they could. We did have a few people who ended up either not returning or graduated or moved on. So our crew, we really missed everybody greatly. This is the list of students that we have right now. And it's a pretty good list. One thing that I'm pretty proud of is that we didn't let any students go in the spring. We kept all of our staff. We kept them working at their regular hours. We provided lots and lots of professional development opportunities. They also had the chance to take advantage of a lot of conferences, virtual conferences and workshops that everyone was offering for free. So we just really did as much as we could to keep those students employed during a really difficult time. This is just a little more in detail. This shows you the breakdown of our professional and student staff, what that consists of. So what we do, I talked about it a little bit. We have graphic designers, we have writers. Most of our designers come from the art and design program. We have occasionally had a designer who was studying fine arts instead of graphic design, or we've had someone maybe in the communications field who was sort of dabbling in both and trying to make some decisions on their direction. Writers, we've had writers from the English department, from the communications department, from the science department, from all over, psychology, and you know, it's just people who really want to be doing that creative work. Advertising, we have a sales manager for the digital screens that you see in the CERC, and you also see in the Student Services Building, Bullion Hall. You'll also see that they are turned on in Samuelson and Discovery Hall. We've been supporting COVID messaging and managing those screens as well for the university. Social and digital media. Hopefully you're all very aware of CWU Hype, and we have our writers typically and street team are most heavily involved in the social and digital media, as well as our videographers. And then we do street team, obviously they are hyping it up. They go to events, they do a fun little breakdown on Instagram, and they're pretty active there, just trying to get people excited about events and getting involved and making connections. Video, that's about 5 years old, that program. And then the consultation is just consulting with departments, being available to help them sort of navigate what might work best for their event promotions. And if they are doing stuff in-house, to provide some advice on how they might accomplish that. How we do it, we have created a centralized office space and services. I'm in the office right now, sorry, kind of messy desk, but you can see that we have a large open space for lots of collaboration. It's been extremely lonely when I've been here all by my lonesome. So we're really excited about the announcement that came out today that there are going to be lots of plans in action for fall 2021. Let's see. I don't need to read this again, but I do want to touch on we do have designated approval by Public Affairs to work with clubs and help them with logo usage, brand guidelines, and that goes with other departments as well, so we can approve materials. And we make a lot of decisions based on the data that we collect through surveys and through some of our software and subscription programs. Intentional recruiting and hiring. By that, I mean that we have worked really hard to have our staff be reflective of the student body. And we are currently, I believe we're 50% with professional and student staff. We are 50% people of color in our office, which is really great. And then finally, we hype it up through CWU Hype and just partnering with as many different people as we can, whether we are working with them in a client service capacity or just getting together, collaborating, and trying to promote engagement on campus. And this is an example of when it all comes together beautifully. This is Wildfest from 2019. A bunch of photos you can see for those of you lucky enough to attend. You know, it was a jam-packed day with so many people coming together and working to make that happen. Our involvement was to assist with all of the visuals for that, as well as video and social media promotions, lots of signage, features, advertising, all of that stuff. The funding sources, I have no idea how much time I have. Someone tell me.
I actually believe you are at 10 minutes.
Oh.
Unless someone on the committee motions for more time.
I motion for an extra, how many minutes? What do you need, Lola? 1 minute?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I motion for 2 minutes.
I'll second. Seconded by me.
All right, so motion was approved. So at 7:11 is your new cap.
Okay, so you've already got all the requests for funds. This is the breakdown. S&A, we're asking for 264,884. We also get some money from the sub fee fund, and then we generate revenue. Obviously, our revenue has decreased in the situation we're in while costs continue to increase. Impact of reduction is there. That may be a question that you all come up with. These are ways that we have informed decisions, surveys, and we use a project management tool to track all of our projects and social media management tool. Just some numbers, what we're tracking regularly on our programs and service. I'm going to skip that. That may come back. Played a big part in supporting COVID outreach and messaging. And new opportunities, you're going to hear from Jeff McMillan. We're super excited that we have joined forces to align some services and strategic communications and cross-training for students. Lots of professional development opportunities there.
Revolution will not be televised. Hype up that Central. Hype it up, Central. Hype it up. Hype it up. Hype it up.
That's it. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. And any questions? Lacey, you have a question?
Yeah, I'll get it started, Lola. So if the S&A committee, it was in a situation where they were talking about 15% reductions, can you maybe describe to the committee what that would look like for your department?
Yes. So most of the funding goes to staffing. Most of the funding that we get goes to staffing. I mentioned before that we have revenue we charge for services. We've had to adjust that pretty significantly since last end of winter and spring and over the summer and this year as well. So I would say that the biggest impact would be on staffing. We would have to revisit our model and make some decisions there. Goods and services could be problematic because we have quite a bit of equipment for the students in this office, and we're at a point where we have to upgrade to be able to run some of the software that we need.
Great. Thank you, Lola.
Terry, did you have a question too?
I did, but Lola just answered that in the response to Lacey, so thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And Lola, do you see the question in the chat there about your rates?
Yes, that's a great question. So before COVID hit, we had a 3-tier pricing structure, and S&A was the lowest price, and then student success departments were the 2nd tier, and then the top tier was all other departments. We felt pretty strongly that S&A departments should be paying the least amount since they were already, students are paying an S&A fee. So it felt like a little bit of a double whammy. Our rates that we have right now are on our website. So if you go to cwu.edu/publicity, and in the left-hand menu, there's, I think there's request a project or something like that. And it describes what we are currently offering and the prices for that.
And Brandon, I saw your hand up as well.
Yeah, I was just, I guess, preliminary question. Lola, are students charged for using Publicity Center?
All like individual students?
Yeah, I mean, I guess say an org or a club
Yes.
is hosting an event, they want to publicize it. Okay.
Yes.
So question similar to one I answered, I guess, asked earlier, you know, as S&A fee is from the students and we pay for, I guess, the salaries and the programming and the staffing, we're just kind of wondering, where does I guess that money go after charging the students again to use the service?
The money goes back into, so when we were originally funded by S&A, it was at that time we were asked to figure out a revenue schedule with student groups being charged the least amount for that very reason. I think, you know, it's probably a conversation for S&A, what you would want us to do. I think it's important to, I think, establish a value for service, but it goes right back into the program. And in some cases, you know, it helps support the student positions or some of the equipment, or you'll see in our budget that we have a pretty significant carry forward. That is actually our revenues that have been, I guess, piling up, for lack of a better word. But what we're asking for this coming cycle is no increase with major increased costs and reduced revenues. So we'll be pulling from that carry forward to make it happen.
Awesome. Thank you, Lola.
Any more questions? Seeing none, thank you, Lola, for your presentation today. Very nice. Thanks for coming out. All right, up next, we have the KCWU, and with that is Jeffrey McKillen. You have the floor, sir.
Jeff McMillan, he, his, him pronouns. I'm the general manager at KCWU. I'm going to be presenting for Wildcat Sports Radio Network and KCWU together. Is it okay if I do those together? Do I have to motion or something like that? Or I guess you guys motion, right?
You would only, Jeff, if you're planning on going over your regular 10 minutes, because technically you would have 20 for the two. So if you're going to fit it into 10, no. If you're looking at more than that, the committee can vote just to have it be as one presentation with extended time.
As some of you have heard me talk before, I might go a little long on that 10 minutes.
So maybe we'll entertain a motion. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So move to combine the times. Made by Jesse, seconded.
All right, motion approved.
And I'm not an experienced Zoomer, so I'm going to do the best I can. We're going to start off with a 3-minute video presentation that Krista and I put together. We'll do a share screen, and then we'll go into the presentation for both Wildcat Sports Radio and KCWU at the same time. So I guess I will start sharing my screen.
Right here on 88.1 The Berg. 88.1 The Berg.
88.1 The Berg.
88.1 The Berg, your music central.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Did not see you there.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's your boy Cody here, 88.1 The Berg, your music central.
I saw The Berg and I was like, okay, if I ever go here, I want to be a part of it.
The station just feels like a second home to me.
That's where I came in.
Cat the things I do for this stupid shit. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2.
I call these the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders right here.
You're listening to 88.1 The Berg, your music central.
Welcome back to the Wildcat Sports Radio Network pregame show live here from Tomlinson Stadium.
On the Wildcat Sports Radio Network.
JoJo again. JoJo gonna throw for a touchdown for the Wildcats.
It's a 62-10 final score. Here's the Wildcats thoroughly whooping Simon Fraser Clan. Welcome into 88 yards here with Will Ortner. This is my love song move.
He's running for Washington State Attorney General. Matt, how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me here.
Welcome back into the KCWU War Room.
We have Kim Schreier on the line.
I'm doing great, thank you.
A much closer race than we have right now.
It's been a pretty crazy night. Lots of results rolling in.
What is going on right now on the map?
Thank you all for joining us on this very special day.
We're having our student forum primarily focused on the events from last week.
So we've got a lot of work to do to get our hands.
My New Year's resolution was to challenge President Gagino.
Golf cart race.
Golf cart race, one lap around the campus.
Today is such a beautiful day. And you're done.
Voila.
Got a little bit in my eye.
What is the best Girl Scout cookie? Samoas or Thin Mints?
They were both hanging off a ledge. Say the grain. And you could say for one. Who died?
Cheers?
Yep, cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, really so much fun. I have fun too.
But can make me feel this way.
All right, so that I know that there's a little bandwidth issues on campus right now, so I will also drop the link for that as well in the chat below, and we'll get into the presentation. So 88.1 The Berg is the campus radio station, but we've tried to become so much more as our industry has changed. KCWU is something that's been around since originally when it was KCAT in 1958 was when it all started for the Berg. From there, in about 1998, we became KCWU. We became part of the Cirque in the new home in 2006. And here we are today as one of the most decorated college radio stations in the nation. Our mission is up, and you can read it. I want to put it into a more simple term. We are a living learning laboratory where students can come and really get hands-on learning, much like how the Publicity Center, and you heard from Lola, it is professionally managed, but it is student-led, with students out seeking opportunities after they leave this university and succeeding in the fields of their choice. And that's what we try and do here at KCWU is if you have an idea, we want to make it happen. Sometimes we can't make it happen due to parameters of things we might not have available to us, or just due to staffing, just from the pure amount of things that we're trying to do. Each year, KCWU puts on roughly 109 events that we support on campus. So we are there playing music. You've seen us there many times. You've seen the Wildcat Sports Radio Network and KCWU putting on video for Central Washington University's football team in the pregame show. You'll find us out at multiple events, whether it's the farmers market, or some of the other things. Over the last 4 years, we've been a part of a lot of events, whether it's on campus or off, trying to make sure that we're making Central Washington University and KCWU and the students at the forefront of everything. We've worked with campus activities, ASCWU, ROTC, dining, College of Business, Brother to Brother. The Rec Center is a regular partner, Wellness Center, and we always are working with Publicity and Lola's team and the Hype team. We've also in the community worked with Morgan Middle School, Ellensburg High School, Youth Services of Kittitas County, just to name a few. We'll talk a little more about how we're funded, but I want to make sure that why we're here. Currently in the fiscal year, we receive split funding. So we receive S&A funding and sub funding. $278,000 roughly is this year. And then we receive some funding from the sub as well. We are asking for a 9.9% increase, and I will talk about that as we get to the end of the presentation. Each year, as we said, we have about 80 volunteers, 79 plus volunteers during this 4-year cycle each year. 3,550 hours on average, and we make sure we keep that data. 50 reoccurring programs, whether it's the morning shows that we have that reoccur, whether it's on-air shows that reoccur, the 5 at 5, the Wildcat Sports Radio Network programming, KCWU News Central, or something like the Wildcat Sports Radio Network pregame show or football contests as well that we air. We cover 60 athletic events on the Wildcat Sports Radio Network. We're trying to get as involved as we can to make sure that we're putting the students that are putting their bodies on the line, at the forefront, and really kind of trying to showcase them in different ways for the university and the community as well. We have shifted over the years, and we've really tried to expand that, and we'll talk about that a little more later, but we now cover almost every home game for Central Washington University. When it comes to recognition, I say that we are one of the most, one of the best programs in the nation. It's because over the last 4 years, 76 awards at a national level with 23 wins, including the 2015 College Station of the Year. We're the only university in the nation 7 times in a row to be nominated for College Radio Station in the Year. Last year, we set a record with 19 nominations, beating the University of Wisconsin's record. This year, we broke our own record with 21 nominations, still counting as some are waiting to be announced in the next week here, including Best College Radio Station. We try and compete we do compete with some of the best colleges in the nation. The University of Texas, Austin. This year, we're up against Montclair State, Indiana, University of Indiana, Indiana State, just to name a few, for College Radio Station of the Year. Berg special events and giveaways. We give away tickets and we put on events all over campus, and as well as trying to get promotion into the university. We work with Live Nation. We also work with USC Events. We work at Ticketmaster and some of these other companies to be able to provide students with tickets to shows, so you can enter on contests on social media. You can come in person, like when we do our Lucky giveaway or our Paradiso giveaway. We also are always broadcasting when we have CW Mariners Night with the Alumni Association. We broadcast from Safeco Field. And then every year that there's an election cycle, we make sure that we put on the election live coverage. This year, we did 7.5 hours of live election coverage on the radio and online with the video component that we entered in this year. When it comes to capturing data, we go out of our way to try and make sure that we can get a good grasp on what the students of Central Washington are looking for, as well as trying to further their experience here. So we do a listener survey. The last one was 1920, if I remember correctly. And we send that listener survey out. We received 2,000 students returning the survey. It helped gather a lot of data, including letting everybody know that, letting us know, 88% of students listen to 88 Won the Bird 3 hours a day. It's actually 87 and some change, but I thought with the 88%, 88 1, it would be kind of cool to just do that, so I bumped it up. but it also helps us guide what we're doing music-wise and content-wise. That's why we made such a great shift to really pushing our news content and election content, because we were getting so much feedback about students wanting to have that opportunity, one, to participate and get that experience, but two, to make sure that they're hearing from their elected officials. We had 14 elected officials come on the election coverage from all over the state, including Kim Schreier. Along the way, we also take internal feedback through surveys. The volunteer feedback helps us find out what we should be working on, whether we should take our shift and move it towards video, as we did in some situations. We have a lot of students that have returned that they want to do a lot with gaming and streaming on Twitch, so that's something we've been examining and starting to pursue. We also get employee feedback from our large number of student employees of what they want as opportunities at Central Washington University. When it comes to our social media, that's one place where we have what we think is a really good reach. Our reach is a little different than I think a lot of people's on campus, because one, we're going after the community, but a lot of what we do is based around entertainment and music and our ticket giveaways. In a given year, we reach roughly in impressions. We're getting about 1 million impressions a year. As you see on the side, the 10 days of summer ticket giveaway in August gave us 70,000 impressions between Twitter and Instagram. During the very start of COVID, we came up with March Music Mania. That had over 80,000 views during the weeks that it ran. 70% conversion rate, which means of the 80,000 people who viewed it, we had 70% participating in some form, whether it was sending comments, voting along the way. And so it's just kind of another layer of what you're experiencing at a professional radio station from the marketing side and from the social media side. Students are getting hands-on learning with that. When it comes to hands-on learning, we do a ton of stuff. And it's incredibly important to our students that they're learning these things, because we're placing them at the next level. We have to give them these experiences. When it comes to tech, you're learning broadcast equipment engineering, network engineering, RF training, dealing with the radio frequency. When it comes to radio programming, students are scheduling and traffic scheduling our music. They're learning play-by-play, color commentary. All of them are learning FCC regulations, music laws and regulations. They're learning how to produce shows, technically board op a show, a little bit of e-gaming, which we've just started in there and we talked about. In the news department, students are covering Kittitas County as well as the state of Washington. And on top of that, they're also covering national stories as well, 5 days a week, 1 hour live broadcast, News Central. Right now, it's been going 11 to noon. We have to obviously work around our news team schedule. So we're going to be starting that up Monday again for this quarter. Whoops, sorry there. When it comes to some of the things we've added, the video department was a new experience for us 3 years ago. Adding in the experience with live streaming through LiveView, students working with Final Cut and the Adobe suites, the learning how to audio configure, which has been, especially for a live broadcast, has been an incredibly important experience to learn, and has helped some of our students land positions at the next level. And then brand and marketing, our brand department does a lot of stuff, including our underwriting, which is allowing students to get experience in not necessarily sales, but it is going out, presenting what KCW offers and trying to make partnerships with the groups around the community. Blog writing, event planning, we are out supporting events all the time. Social media, as we talked about, they also work with graphic design. We do have an in-house graphic designer in a regular year. When it comes to placement, this is the biggest thing that for me and KCWU is that where we're placing students, we really want to make sure that we are that campus to career connection from this living learning laboratory for Central Washington. We have students that have gone on to work for NFL Films, Seattle Seahawks in the last 4 years, the Seattle Mariners, the Sounders, NBC, K5 in Seattle, King 5, Entercom, Alpha Media, Movin 92.5. We have 2 students on air at Movin 92.5. Como, the Walt Disney Corporation, 98.9 The Bull, let's see, ESPN 710 up in the quarter, and KTTH and Cairo Radio, just to name a few. Our students are the producers, are the on-air talent, are the interns, are the salespeople and working in marketing departments for all of these companies and so many more. In the past 5 years of my time at KCW, 61 students have been placed into professional positions of what they were seeking when they entered KCWU. This is our org chart for next year. Currently, we have a vacant position, the KCW Brand Manager, Assistant General Manager position, which you see on the right side of your screen. And then we have Nicholas Elliott, the Chief Broadcast Engineer. He oversees 2 students, a video tech and the Maintenance Engineering Assistant. KCW also has 4 students in the news department. Our production department has 2 students. Video department carries 4 students altogether. The sports coordinator works exclusively for sports talk with our normal programming. And then we have the Wildcat Sports Radio Network, which also has a student that oversees that. We end up having throughout a year about 9 to 10 play-by-play color commentator combinations, and 3 to 4 students producing those shows throughout the year. We have students that are doing the music scheduling and the producing of music, and then our training department. In our brand department, we have students that do social media and ticket coordination, underwriting, graphic design, web and app design, which we've won multiple awards for, and event coordination. And then all of our students participate in events. In this time of 4 years, we've had 7 graduate assistants. That's 7 students that have joined KCW as graduate assistants, getting their master's degree in different fields. As well as we've offered over 25 internships that students have taken part of as part of whatever department they are from. KCW is not affiliated with any department outside of student success. We are open to everyone on campus, and we like it that way. Many of our students come from the science department and business, School of Business, and they want to learn these other skills that we offer. The Wildcat Sports Radio Network, a quick slides about that. It's really about getting students opportunity that's not offered anywhere else in the Pacific Northwest. Students are doing live pregame shows, much like to emulate ESPN. They're also doing sideline live reporting during the games with video and on air. We're doing the radio broadcast throughout the game, as well as part of the stream for CWU Athletics for both basketball and football. We've kind of shifted the Wildcat Sports Radio over the last few years. And we were originally only covering men's and women's basketball and football. We were traveling with the teams, but we wanted to stretch the dollar that we had and really kind of provide more to the students and more coverage and more opportunity. So KCWU shifted, and now they currently cover football, men's and women's basketball, men's rugby, women's rugby, softball, baseball. We hope to cover volleyball and soccer in the future. We cover all the home contests for these events. And last year was a great opportunity for us. We received national award nominations for some of the sports that we don't usually get nominated for. Softball, men's rugby, both receiving national award nominations. COVID hit, and that was a crazy thing. And KCWU had to pivot quickly. And so Nicholas Elliott, myself, shifted the entire station basically over that 2-week spring break we had and figured out how to keep students on air and keep students employed. We kept all but 2 students employed. 2 students decided that they would like to take, the time of spring quarter off. So we employed, if I remember correctly, 34 students during the time of the spring COVID. Our students were still going on air, and it was really outstanding how Nicholas Elliott, our engineer, adapted the station. He figured out a way to take a Discord server and a Zoom meeting and shift everything so that we could be on air. We also took our event staff that wasn't doing events anymore, our sports team, and we shifted them into our Berg Life category, offering opportunities with lifestyle content like cooking pieces or gardening pieces like Gardening with Cyan. We also opened up a Twitch page where we had students streaming League of Legends and I think I'm going to get it wrong, Rainbow Six Siege or something along those lines. And they were streaming those games. And it was just really about adapting, that Berg team and trying to find their skills to create more opportunity for them. We are asking for an increase of 9.9%. We are asking for, from S&A, $306,000 and some change. The increase is necessary because of music and licensing rights, FCC requirements with equipment and capabilities and coverage. And then obviously some of that comes from the increase of wages that happened due to the state raise of the minimum wage. Wildcat Sports Radio is staying flat. The current ask is $9,000, the exact same as it usually is. So there's no increase requested there. We also have a $6,000 annual reserve budget. That's basically our emergency fund in case something breaks, that sits off to the side. And then because I did say we were split funded, we receive $197,000 annually from the sub fund. And that deals with equipment and a position that we have that is funded through there. In case of a funding reduction, KCWU has a lot of things that we cannot necessarily change: music rights, licensing rights. We would potentially lose student positions depending on the size of the cut. We could try and be flexible any way we can, but looking at the budget and examining it, we know that that is where we will take a huge hit, would be student opportunity. What that would do is the less students that work here, the less student volunteer opportunities there are, because so many students are teaching and training the other students and monitoring and helping produce content along the way for them. And that's 88.1 The Berg and the Wildcat Sports Radio Network. I will stop sharing my screen because this just says questions. Woo!
Any questions? Brandon, is that a hand up?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has a bunch of questions, but Jeff, I guess this one question is, why are these two different funding requests if the Sports Network is especially called the KCW's Sport Department? Why is this not just one thing?
So in 2000, I want to get the date right, but I think I might be wrong. 2016, I was a student here and we presented it originally. 2015, I was a student. I presented it as a student for supplemental funding. It became its own position as a travel and student wage budget, but that can only be used for athletic events. So if let's say, I don't know, COVID happened and athletics stopped, then we would stop using that budget, because that only students that are in dealing with athletic contests can use that money. That's how it was designed from the beginning.
Okay, and then I guess my second question is, what exactly is the difference between 88.1 The Berg, or KCWU, and the Sports Network? Because looking at the pictures, I know to probably be on the Sports Network, you got to be trained in radio, which means probably working for KCWU and having those skills. And then you look at the pictures, our 88.1 Berg employees are also our Sports Network people. So I'm wondering, where is this money going? Are they going to salaries, and are these students kind of getting paid twice to do the same job?
No. So, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But it is, it's going directly to students that are play-by-play. So that's why it's split in the org chart. There is a sports position, and then there's the Wildcat Sports Radio Network position. So we have one student that oversees students that are dealing with video games, on-air sports talk, and the producing and script writing for those shows, as well as that student usually is in the news department as well. So that position sometimes is working in the news department. When it comes to Wildcat Sports Radio Network, that is your job. So a perfect example would be a student like Danny DeBach. Danny DeBach wanted to do play-by-play. His participation with KCWU was when he was on air or working an athletics contest, he was paid Wildcat Sports Radio Network budget. He actually didn't have another position with KCWU, so that's what he did exclusively. Students that are involved with that piece of our budget we want to make sure that it is exclusively for working alongside the athletics contest, because we want to make it different, because it is different, because some of the broadcasts don't go over the KCW FM airwaves. Some of them are we have a student that is doing exclusively rugby games for the athletic stream. And so it's giving that student the opportunity to get that experience. You would never have an opportunity to call a rugby game, but we feel like we're helping provide equipment, we're helping go up there and make sure that they are getting experience so that they can build a reel, so that they can go out to the professional industry and potentially get those positions. Peyton Barents, who was a grad assistant for us and did basketball for years, he's now a producer with Bonneville and producing shows, directly correlated to what he was doing there. He's also in the finals for a position with the Seattle Sounders, playing FIFA soccer for them online and doing some play-by-play work with them. And then obviously Drew Wallen and Peyton Barents, for both of us, were the play-by-play team for the Seattle Sounders minor league team that they got from covering different sports through the Wildcat Sports Radio Network.
Thanks, Jeff.
Eunice, you have a question?
Thank you for great presentation, especially the video. So how much is the typical student staff getting salary, or how much you guys pay the students?
Minimum wage. So there are a couple of students that will make, after a student has been here a while and they have a little more experience, they will make, they get salary incremental bumps. 50 cents, $1, but we're really trying to spread that dollar as far as we can and get as many students opportunities as we can. So it's really about trying to create as many opportunities as we can. So by paying students minimum wage or slightly above, those students are essentially getting the hands-on experience, and doing their position with the station, whether it's scheduling music or whether it's producing or production work for all the different promos that go over the air. And we could pay a student $20 an hour to 20 hours a week, but it seems to make more sense to try and get 2 students 10 hours a week if we can, and get multiple students the experience.
Okay, and it's one more question about that. You guys, we don't know what's gonna be happen next year, because many universities, they suspend their athletic programs.
Yep.
And for example, since last spring, there's no any athletic program happening in our central. And the budget that specifically you guys using for the athletic games, what's happened that money? And if it's suspended next year, what's gonna be happen?
If there was no games, then no students would do anything with Wildcat Sports Radio Network. That budget would remain untouched, because that's exclusively only for students that are working on athletics contests and sports coverage for those games, working in play-by-play, color commentary, and producing the show.
Thank you.
Bjorn, did you have your hand up?
No, I don't, but I think Terry does.
Go ahead, Terry.
Sorry. I have a couple questions that are related to the budgeting sheet that was submitted. You have, if I understand correctly, so you're getting money from S&A and from sub-funding. And I heard you to have a discussion about advertising. I'm not seeing any advertising revenue.
So it's not advertising, it's underwriting. So essentially it's a donation for essentially a mention on air. So if you've heard it, like D&M Coffee located here, we can't say go to D&M Coffee. We can only list a service they have under FCC regulations for underwriting. But essentially what we offer is a student and myself will go out and go to businesses around the community, and we'll talk to them about opportunities of working with 88.1 The Berg and our Wildcat Sports Radio Network. We offer different packages, and essentially it's a 1-year deal that they would sign on for. A basic package is about $13.50, and that would give them about 50 plays on the air. And what that is D&M Coffee, located at insert address. They offer this, this, and this. For more information and website. We have really strict FCC guidelines when it comes to underwriting, because if we blur the line between underwriting and advertising, that's a big fine, and I don't like fines. So yeah.
No, I understand that in what you're having to do. So is that then the money that's listed under self-support?
Yes.
15,000. So you have, if you're charging $13.50 for a basic package, that mean you have roughly 12 people underwriting you?
10 to 12. And obviously we're in a world where we don't know, because every day is another knuckleball. And we want to help the community as much as we can. And so we're trying everything we can to make sure that we are working with the community. I mean, it's tough when you see businesses close, and that those businesses need to exist so that students have things to do when they come to this town. So we've tried different ways to work with them for the future. But yes, in the end, KCWU is doing something that is our underwriting, and a lot of people will equate it to advertising, but just let's not use that word. But yes, it is them. If you wanted to donate, or let's say Joey wanted to donate. Joey, we could say, Joey Bryant, a proud supporter of 88 won the Bird. Because we are a non-commercial radio station, we cannot advertise or say, head on over to Joey's YouTube page and go watch his stuff. It'd be great. And subscribe. We can't do that. So yeah.
No. I understand. It's like PBS.
Exactly. They're actually under the same FCC guidelines.
Right. I saw there's roughly $100,000 ending balance.
This year?
Yeah.
So that is the projection for right now, but KCWU is also having to do system upgrades to deal with the COVID pieces. The projection will probably in the end be about, I don't want to miss, but I would say probably 70,000. And that's with a 15% reduction that we're trying, the university is in a reduction as a whole. So we made sure that we put a 15% reduction. We want to do our part for the university so that if those funds were to roll back, the S&A could use them as they see fit to help other programs and whatnot.
So what you're saying is it looks like 100,000, but you think in the end, after you finish the upgrade you're talking about, it's going to be more like 70.
It is kind of where we are right now. Yeah, we basically have torn apart our main studio. There's wires all throughout the station. It's a weird spot because the Berg's equipment was put in 2003 and 2004 when the Cirque opened, along with a lot of the desks and things, and we haven't changed them. And so they started failing, and Nicholas Elliott and I, over the last few years, have kind of been duct taping what we can, and it finally got to a point where we couldn't duct tape anymore. Systems wouldn't upgrade. We had quite a few systems that we were using in our facility that ran on a program called Windows Vista. And once the university blocked that, we could not upgrade any of the systems anymore. So, yeah.
And so that is when I was looking at the repairs and maintenance budget has jumped considerably. I assume that's where that is.
Yeah, we anticipate it probably being another 2 years like this as we upgrade the studios. KCW has the main studio. We also have a training studio. We have Berg 2, and we have our production studio. And in many cases, we're robbing, from Peter to pay Paul. So we're taking parts from other pieces of equipment to keep, let's say, Berg 2 alive, so that we can stagger these upgrades. So we're not doing them all at once. Because one, we don't want to put that onto, we don't want to put that onto our budget. It could be crippling to do that in 1 year. The other thing is just like when they went in, all the equipment is going to fail at the same time when it goes in. Most of our equipment has about a 15 to 20 year life cycle. And sure enough, we started hitting at about that 14, 15 year mark. They started failing. So yeah.
Thank you.
And Joey, how much more time do we have for questions? Do we have more time?
We do, since we combined the two together, is there's
Okay.
technically 7 more minutes left. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay, just making sure. And I think I saw Brandon's hand and then Eunice was next.
Yeah, so mine was like, Jeff, you said the sub fee all pays for equipment, and then you're asking S&A for an increase to kind of pay for something related to equipment. I was just wondering why that.
Well, it is. So the increase is going to go along more with music licensing rights and how we pay for music. So when I started at KCW, we paid for music through a service that no longer exists due to changes made early on in the last administration of the presidency. And so there were a few changes, and it closed down the companies that were giving us music and music rights for extremely small dollar amounts. So right away, we had to start paying X amount of dollars a month to receive our music into the station. As well as that, we had other things with music rights going up. So originally, when the budget was built last quadrennium, it was built off of the music rights cost for BMI, CSAC, and ASCAP from almost, I think, 8 to 10 years ago. And my last conversation, which has been about a year or two, with Peggy Eaton, we talked about how we had seen almost a like $20,000, $30,000 increase in just music licensing rights. And then recently a new company emerged that we have to pay licensing rights to, that we'll start paying next year, as they're increasing their library. And so we need to make sure that we are covering licensing rights both for our public performance, the online streaming, as well as what goes on campus as well. And so a perfect example is the song Happy by Pharrell Williams. That is owned by a company, by this brand new company. They own 100% of it. We cannot currently play that song. And you would basically be opening yourself up to potentially being hit with licensing fines if we were to play Happy. Now, we know how hard it is to control all the music that goes on campus in different places, but we still do go out of our way to make sure that we are putting our hand in that as much as we can and make sure that we're following the guidelines and reporting to BMI and ASCAP, all of those. And GMC, I think, no, that's a car. GMA is the new company. So yeah. And most of that will go to deal with those. The equipment increase that we talk about is our EAS box. So it is the emergency broadcast system box, which we're required by FCC law to have. And essentially we were running one that was originally in the old sub, and it stopped working. And for about 5-6 weeks, we were having to pipe in stuff from KXLE and get theirs and then manually play it over the air. But now we have a piece that we will be paying our subscription to so that it can do those things.
My question is going to be, one is really quick, is that how many, sorry, it's 11 p.m. here. So first question is do you guys charge the money for the student clubs if they want to advertise things in your radio?
No.
No,
every department, anybody that wants to work with us is free because we're a community radio station. We do, however, we do charge the $88.10 to be at events. And essentially what happened is in 2014-15, the previous general manager didn't say no to any events, and he tried to cover as many as he could. And they did 315 events, and you're paying the staff that goes out to those events. And so imagine going into a 4-hour event, you have to have 2 people to set up and tear down, make sure that you're giving proper breaks and whatnot to your team member. So you have 2 students at that event, you'd be paying essentially the minimum wage cost to each one of them. So The dean at the time, Sarah Swager, came up with the idea of charging $88.10 for those events. It allows us to make sure that we can take the time to have the students set up the events, tear down the events. It pays for equipment wear and tear on the speakers and things that we bring out. And it also pays for the time of putting it into the BMI logs as well, because we have to report the music that we play no matter where it is. And so when we started charging the $88.10, we went from 315 events and it shrunk down. And I think we're doing something like 80 events a year, which is much more manageable to the entire staff, both students and professional staff. And it's allowing us to meet a better need. So it's kind of, we don't charge that all the time. Like, let's say, what's a group? First year experience became like welcome weekend. Like, we don't charge to welcome weekend. We don't charge to the big event that happens up at the new track complex. We try and go out of our way to not charge when we can, but sometimes we have to, because we're bringing out equipment, because we're putting staff there. And if we didn't, we'd be cutting into the staff overall, like severely into the staff.
And how many professional staff you have in your department?
Currently 2. Nicholas Elliott, myself, for the last 19 months.
If you don't mind, like, you guys asking $212,000 for the professional staff only, right?
One more time.
So I see in the budget says 212K says non-student payroll.
That is for a 3-person professional staff. Yes, that would be the general manager, chief broadcast engineer, and the assistant general manager position.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
And with that, I think we're out of time for questions. Is that right?
We have about 1 minute left, and I
1
think
minute.
Lacey's the only one left with a question up that I see. So you have 1 minute, Lacey and Jeff. You have 1 minute to answer.
All right, Jeff, I'll try to make this fast. So I know you had it on your slide, but about how many student employees and / volunteers do you have in KCW in a normal year?
In a normal year, it's over 100 combined. It's about 35 to 36 students combined between the two.
So, and I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna try to do this fast. So of those 100 students that come through KCW, how many of those students do you retain throughout the next year or the next few years?
It really depends. This year, obviously, is a huge anomaly, but we're graduating so many students every year because most students, they come to Central Washington University and they meet us at orientation and they say, oh my gosh, I want to do all these things. And then they come to Central and then they find out there's a heavy workload and we don't see them until their sophomore, junior, senior years. And then it's, what do you want to do? How can we help you? And where can we try and help you land? So we're retaining about, in the student staffing department, probably about 50% of those students come back next year. But a lot of our student pool comes from those volunteers. Like they're, oh gosh, you have the experience. Let's, now when they're interviewing for a position, but it doesn't mean that you have to be a volunteer to be a part of the Berg. I mean, I can think of lots of students that are first timers and they're part of the staff because they have a skill that they want to hone here and it fits with what we're trying to do. Megan Ray is a great example. Megan Ray was not a volunteer. She came to us, she wanted to do social media and she's done social media and marketing for us in the brand department, done great, turned into an opportunity where she has had an offer from a large network recently. And now she is actually the head music scheduler for the station and handling social media during these COVID times. Because if you've ever been into the Berg, it's 6 rooms and it's very small and social distancing is really hard in here. So it's a lot of people locking themselves in different rooms.
Great. And I have one last question. With the Wildcat Sports Radio Network, does that budget receive any support from the athletic department?
No.
Okay.
No, it is 100% the Berg, because we want to, and this is no offense to athletics, but we want to keep them separate from what we're doing. We are for the students, they are for athletics. They do the athletics thing, we do the Berg thing. And my my philosophy on it is the reason why we're doing play-by-play is because students want to do it, and students want to have that opportunity to try and get a position somewhere else when they leave. And so that has been what we chase after and why we do it. And the last thing about the Wildcat Sports Radio Network is we've had a lot of first in Division II over the last few years, including Rachel Davey and Edith Rojas being the first team of all women to call a men's basketball game together. And they said, this is what we want to do, and we said, let's figure out how to do it. I mean, that's what we try and do, is come to us with an idea, and we'll do our best to try and do it for you.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for answering all of our questions. And thanks for coming out. All right, and with that, I assume we don't have any old business? No, all right. Any communications received? No.
I've not received any.
Awesome. Any public comment for a second time around?
You're all awesome. Thank you for hanging in there for these long meetings.
I just miss our dinners together, and our other meetings. But all right. I'm hungry.
All right. Moving on. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
So moved.
All right. Moved by Jess. Do I see it? I saw Brandon second that?
Yep.
All right. Motion approved. All right. Have a nice night, guys.
Have a great night, all. See you next week.
Thank you to our guests again.